Good evening. I'll call to order the Westcat Board of Directors meeting for January 18th. And first on the agenda is roll call.
Tom Hansen.
Here.
Dion Bailey.
Here.
Tiffany Grimsley.
Here.
Cameron Sassad.
Here.
Maureen Tong.
Here. Okay, next, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. And all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Okay, we'll move forward on public communications. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak, either in here or on Zoom?
No.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. We have 4 items on the consent calendar. Do any of the board members have any comments or anything they'd like to pull or questions of staff? Seeing none. Any public comments?
No.
None? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion by Bailey,
Second.
and I caught Hansen, second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, that motion passes 5-0. Okay, the next item on the agenda, this is items for board action and discussion. Item 2.1, which is a presentation and discussion of the Westcat audited financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2023.
Thank you. So there is a brief staff report in the report, and the actual audits are contained within the board packet as well. Pleased to say our auditor is actually here in attendance. He's going to give a brief presentation and then answer any questions that any of the board have. So I'll let David introduce himself.
Oh, go ahead, he said.
Okay. Good evening, Board of Directors. My name is David Alvey. I'm a CPA and audit partner with Mays & Associates, and we are the authority's independent external auditor. And my role every year is to come in and audit the financial statements and to render an opinion on whether we feel that, in my firm's opinion, the financial statements you have in front of you are free from material misstatement due to fraud or error. And before I get into that, I just want to go over a really brief overview of the audit process. Even though we do the audit in a single week, in our minds as auditor, we break it up into 2 phases, an interim phase and a final phase. During the interim phase, we're looking at controls. So internal control environment, making sure that a single person cannot initiate, approve, and book a transaction with some kind of review or overview, right? Because if a person could do all 3 of those at the same time, then there could be a situation in which there could be an error that goes through the financial statements get reflected. So during that phase, we're looking at disbursements, we're looking at payroll, we're looking at journal entries. And if the purchasing policy or the board-approved policies are not being followed on a $10,000 disbursement, we hold that as much clout as if that was a $10,000 or a $100,000 disbursement. So we want to make sure that the controls are right. And then when we turn off that part of our brain, we get an idea of the bones of the authority. We come back and we do our final. So this is when the numbers are closed and we're looking at balances. So we send cash confirmations out to your LAIF and your bank statements. We look at capital asset transactions, pension for your actuaries and things like that. And we get comfort of the numbers. And then right when we're done with all of our work, the last piece we do is the management representation letter that's signed by management saying that they've given us everything in full faith. And so after all that is done, we actually have our audit opinion, and that's on page 1 of the basic financial statements. And I'm pleased to say that is an unmodified or clean audit opinion, the highest level assurance that a CPA firm can give. So congratulations, you passed your audit. The second document you have on your agenda is the Memorandum on Internal Controls and Required Communication. This is also known as the Management Letter. And this is my firm's communication to this governing body of things that we found in the audit. And they've been categorized three ways. A material misstatement, that means something material can flow through that internal control structure and not get caught. We have nothing to report there. Significant deficiency, that something significant can flow through, nothing to report. And then the catch-all is other matters, and we have nothing to bring to your attention. The second part of that report is the required communication. So I'm required to tell you that we had no disagreements with management. We didn't find any material misstatements. We don't think that management was trying to limit our scope or not giving us information that we requested. And we don't think that management had a second CPA firm in the wings just in case we didn't issue an unmodified opinion. And with that, I'd just like to thank Rob and Vaughn and Deborah for all of their help and open up to any questions you might have about the audit process.
Okay, do any board members have any questions? Looking to my right, to my left. Thank you for your report. We'll now go and see if we have any public comment on this item. No public comment, so we'll bring it back to the board. And the requested action is to receive the report and file. And
That's all we need. I mean,
do you want a motion?
we don't need a motion.
Okay,
Can I make a quick comment? I
yes.
just want to acknowledge staff. I know we have some new folks working in our accounting team over the last couple of years. We kind of changed that out. And so great job. I know we have a very tiny team doing all this work for us. So thank you guys for what you did. A clean audit's a good thing. I work
Yes,
for
it
a
is.
city, didn't always get those. So very important here. So thank you very much.
Yes, and I'd like to echo that as well, so thank you. Okay, with no other action needed, we'll move on to Agenda Item 2.2, and that's a presentation and discussion of the first quarter financial and operating data report. And this, again, is information only, but we'll receive a report.
Again, there is a really brief staff report, but I'm going to hand this over to our Chief Financial Officer, Yvonne, to kind of go over this.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is going to be very brief. I don't know if everyone's had an opportunity to take a look at our what we're presenting tonight. This is the first quarter, so it represents July, August, and September of this fiscal year. And ultimately, it is the same report that you're going to see every quarter, and that if you've been on our board for a while, you've seen this report in the past. And I have included with the quarterly financial and operating data report the income statement as backup to that, so you can see where the functional and object class expense line items and revenues are represented. And in the summary of the quarterly report, you'll see them in the revenue and object class, both fiscal year to date, as well as the adopted budget. And what we want to see again in expenses is we want to see at least 75% remaining to collect. And in the revenues, we want to see at least 25% of the revenues collected or accrued for in an allocation through the first quarter. So if you look on the second page of the income statement, or the bottom line of the actual operating report, you will see line 18 where the expenses are at $3,777,311, and we are at a surplus of $311,519 in the first quarter of the year, and we have 75% remaining. So we're right on in line. So I'm going to open that up to anyone if you have any questions for me on anything in particular. Otherwise, that's my report. Okay.
I didn't have my microphone on. We had no public comments, And we'll bring it back to the board, and no action is required. This is information only, so since there are no other questions, we'll be ready to move on to the next agenda item, and that's committee reports and general manager's report, and I think he's going to also include some introductions of staff.
Yes, we will. So there's a few items to go over first. One is that I think at the last board meeting, there was a request for us to come back and discuss potentially starting our board meetings a little bit earlier. I think now both cities have appointed their members to our committee, so we'll bring that back to the next meeting. I just wanted to acknowledge that it is still on our radar to have that discussion. There are two items included in the marketing update as part of the consent calendar. First was the CA California versus Hate update. So we have started doing some social media posting related to that. We have flyers posted around our facility, and we have worked with the State Department, the Civic Rights Department, and they are actually producing some of the flyers that we requested. So they are actually printing them for us, and they're en route to us. That as soon as we get them, they'll be put up inside the vehicles. So we're just kind of waiting for those to arrive, and then that campaign will be kind of out on the streets, so to speak. The other part of the marketing update was included the flyer that is going to introduce the countywide means-based fare pilot that was started in Eastern Contra Costa a couple of months ago. It's if you qualify based on your income eligibility, you receive free rides on dollar ride paratransit systems if you are ADA eligible. So they're rolling that out in our service area and County Connection service area in the next month or so. Our staff, Mika in particular and Denisha, have been working really closely with CCTA to get that program rolled out. The program has a slightly new name, which I believe came from our staff. It's now called the Low Income Fare Equity Program, which is LIFE. So we kind of help brand that throughout the county. There is, as part of that campaign, next Tuesday, CCTA are filming a promotional video to kind of get the word out about that promo. It's being filmed out in the Tri-Delta service area. We are taking one of our dollar ride vehicles out there, so it'll be part of that video, which we'll share once it's kind of completed. So we're kind of pleased to partner with CCTA. We're using Measure X funds to fund this program. So we're going to roll out with our dollar ride paratransit riders over the next month or so. The next update was going to be, the regional measure that is kind of started to be discussed at the MTC level. There's a lot of discussion with how flowing out of the Blue Ribbon Task Force that MTC put together over the COVID period, and now moving into the regional network management process that MTC is developing to kind of oversee how transit helps recover from COVID. And as part of that, MTC are considering going out for a ballot measure in potentially 2026. So they've been working closely with Senator Scott Wiener in enabling language that would help MTC put that on the ballot. So there's been a lot of meetings between MTC transit operators and Senator Wiener's staff in regard how that language may look and what maybe some of the reporting requirements, some of the requirements that may be required that the MTC may want as part of their ability to go out for any additional funding. Kind of related to that, because I'm sure it's been in the news, everyone's seen it. You know, the consolidation conversation at the MTC level has reared its head a number of times in the last couple of months. Another Senator Wahab from the Fremont area, actually had originally it was a gut and mender bill introduced to basically force the consolidation of all transit operations within the Bay Area, all 27 operators. She met with a number of stakeholders, MTC, the large transit operators, representatives from the small operators, to try and persuade her that that was perhaps not the approach that was going to, really achieve what we were looking to what was already kind of being done under the regional network management process within MTC. She also met with California Transit Association, and she did actually originally pull the bill from the Senate committee hearing And then she actually reintroduced the bill 2 or 3 days later. So the bill is still as part of the Senate process in the upcoming year to be heard and discussed. So I'm sure it's something that we'll be talking about in more detail as we kind of go along with that. You know, one of the things that the 4 small operators, the East Bay operators, have done in response to some of this is, you know, really start to think about how we can tell our message at a political level, of all of the things that we're doing to coordinate. And I think I mentioned at the last meeting we were considering going out for a lobbyist that would work on our behalf in Sacramento. I think Livermore Valley Transportation Authority have actually put together an RFP that we're going to put out to kind of seek a couple of firms to really help that. So depending on what that cost comes back, we'll either come back with the board for authority to do that, or we'll certainly come back with a plan of action of how we're going to move forward with that. Because I think given the conversation at the regional, at the state, I think it's important that we're all working to kind of get our message across to our elected officials at the state level, as you know, all of the work that we're doing as transit agencies to work together, all of the work that MTC is doing to coordinate the services that are in place right now. And you know, I think we're really learning that we're not doing a great job as transit agencies, as MTC, is really telling our story, because we're not getting our message across, obviously. And you know, we feel like we're doing a lot of the things people are asking us to do, but just people aren't quite getting the full picture. So that's kind of ongoing. We did also meet with Andy Vermeer, the executive director of MTC, the 4 operators, and Tim Hale, CCTA, actually met with him out in Port Costa a couple of weeks ago, just to kind of talk over all of this and to make sure that he understands where we're coming from as the small operators, because his often focus is with the large operators. You know, we don't always get an audience as the small operators. So again, he's committed and we've committed to keep those meetings ongoing. We're going to try and do that quarterly, meet within one of our service areas and just kind of get into the conversation, have those conversations. So that's the bulk of the things I wanted to kind of talk about. I do want to introduce our new transit planner. Finn Wirtz started at the start of December. So he came to the agency. He's taken on a lot of small projects that have been neglected for a lot of time, a lot of data analysis, a lot of things that I think are going to be really useful as we get into schedule changes, as we get into just looking at ridership in more detail. So I just want to welcome Finn, and you know, he's been a great asset so far, and we're looking forward to kind of really using his skills to advance what we've been doing with Westcat over the next few years. So with that, that's the end of my report.
Great. Does anybody have any questions from our general manager? Board Member Hanson?
Rob, has the advocacy groups in transit weighed in on the bill?
They have, and Seamless actually also met with Senator Wahab and tried to persuade her not to go forward in this approach. I think even they saw that there was no real. If you do read the bill itself, at this point, it's a 2-paragraph statement that just pretty much says transit operators should consolidate. So there's not real that focus. I think, yes, there's definitely been an effort, and you know, even though Seamless, for instance, that's their goal, would like to see consolidation, even they saw the downside of the way that bill was kind of put together, and they Seamless acknowledged the work that MTC's been doing. You know, they wanted to go further than it's gone already, but you know, I think the general consensus, this was not the right approach to get this conversation kind of at the forefront of everyone's, you know, where it needs to be.
Any reason from the author why the bills come forward and what the reason?
From what I understand, I think she just believes that it's for whoever has got her ear, for want of a better word, has persuaded her that the only way transit can be improved is if there's one central oversight governing the whole system. And I think she believes that transit should be operating at 10-minute frequencies throughout the entire region. So it's there's a level of unrealistic kind of expectation hidden behind kind of some of the language.
Thank you.
Board Member Bailey, did you have any questions?
I do, but I'll wait till
Okay.
anyone else has any. I'll go.
Any questions? Questions? I had a question, and that had to do with the LIFE program. Does that work through Clipper?
No, because it's right now, because it's a pilot, it's just for ADA, paratransit, actual dial ride tickets. So it's the way it's working. If you're eligible, you will receive 10 free tickets to ride our ADA eligible services for each month.
Okay.
So right now, and then I think the plan is that we will roll it out to seniors, and then from there it's going to depend on how the program is received and how it works out. I think right now our plan is to give out actual tickets, actual physical tickets, because that's how we do that. But I think we've talked with CCTA about potentially just using our paratransit scheduling software to monitor trips. So I think there's ways. I think we're going to learn a lot from the pilot as it rolls out between the three agencies, and we kind of improve how we're going to track it.
Excellent, thank you. And I think we do have a public commenter. Welcome.
Hi there, Chris Kelly. I just want to make a comment on what the general manager said. I've been watching a lot of the MTC meetings recently, the board meetings, the legislative meetings, and in the context of discussion about the possible 2026 transportation measure, there was discussion about should consolidation happen, say between Caltrain and BART, and I can tell you unequivocally during those meetings that no one came out in favor of that. And then as this discussion proceeded, Jim Sparing, who has been on MTC for an awful long time, basically said, we're not really looking for consolidation, we're looking for coordination. And everybody else at the meeting, I would think pretty much, agreed that coordination is the way to go and that the regional network manager is trying to work on that. So just to give you some hope, so to speak, there are a number of electeds out there who believe that coordination is the right way to go. And I just want to add that earlier this evening I had a discussion with someone from AC Transit, a really big agency, and they agreed that coordination is what we need and not consolidation. Thanks.
Right, thank you. And I would agree with that as well, is that, I think we're all familiar with some of the transit agencies and how they operate, the good parts and the not so great parts. And, if they're having trouble operating their own systems, I don't think we want to jump on board on that. So with that, yes, Board Member Bailey.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. All good comments. I didn't want to jump ahead twice on the first one, but I think it's a good idea for us to look at this. I know it's going to come back to the board if there's a decision for a lobbyist. I have some friends that are activists in the Oakland area and San Francisco area, and those large cities, those activists, until I kind of counsel a little bit or coach, do believe that that's going to solve the problem. And so the electeds may not feel that way, but we all work for the public. And in those large cities, I was surprised when people think it's a good idea and have come to me to thinking I'm on board with the same topic. So I think that having someone help us communicate that message is very important, because it's overwhelmingly, from what I hear from those activist friends, in favor of that move. So thank you for the work that's going on there. We have the new employee's name, and I apologize, what was?
Finn.
Finn?
Finn, F-I-N-N.
F-I-N-N. Finn, welcome, by the way. Just want to say welcome to you. And I guess the new schedule will be available for the board to review January 31st?
Oh, yeah, for sure, yes.
All right, just checking.
Working hard on that.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate welcome, by the way. Appreciate having you here.
Okay, if no other comments, I'll thank you. Welcome, Finn. And we'll move on to we'll move on to WICTAC representative reports. Did you get my report?
Thank you. Tom's going to let me speak for both of us. We both attended the last meeting. Tom does represent us on the board. I'm just going to give an update because I was at that meeting on behalf of the City of Hercules. There was a couple items on the agenda, STEM fees, which I know for cities are very important. There is a developer that's converting a retail space in El Cerrito to a self-storage space. And it was very interesting. They tried to tie their approved self-storage project to a not yet approved housing program to try and sway a refund of those fees. So the board voted unanimously not to refund those STEM fees. So that will go towards funding other things that we do. in transit. And then there was a discussion of Richmond Ferry. It's been very successful. Schedule has been expanded over time from when it originally opened. There's some challenges there. I think it was 2032 that at current spending, funding will start to dry up for some of Richmond Ferry. So the board gave direction to staff to develop a plan as to what to do. How do we do that? You could potentially cut service, which no one wants to do, but that's a plan that kind of stretch those funds out. Or what other options the staff feels might be prudent. So there'll be a future review of that at that meeting. AC Transit received, I think it was $83,000 for some maintenance on their bus shelters. Some folks have asked, why didn't Westcat? We don't, as I understand it, maintain those same types of shelters. So from Westcat's perspective, those funds were best used as proposed by staff. And I think those were all the items that we had on that particular meeting. So that's our update for WICTEC.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions on that report? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 4.0, correspondence. Do we have any? No correspondence. 5.0, board communication items for future board meetings. Looking to my right, to my left, doesn't appear we have any. So at 6:58, we will be adjourning. And, but I also wanted to say thank you for being flexible with this meeting because the mayor's conference was moved a week. And I want to thank staff for juggling, rescheduling it. And I also wanted to mention that we're going to run into the same problem in July. Okay. All right. With that, thank you.